The New York Giants have made two roster moves early on a Tuesday morning. We're going to talk through those additions and losses to the team. But first, you guys need to subscribe to the channel because we are going to be your one-stop shop for all things New York Giants this season. When they make a move, we make a video. So subscribe and turn your notifications on. Training camp practice number 6 is coming up later on today. The pads will be on, which means Giants football is pretty much back. You're watching Giants Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Marshall Green. We've got two roster moves to break down. Let's start with the internal move. J.C. Hassenauer, he had a torn tricep happen at practice the other day. He has been added to the injured reserve, and Brian Daboll says he will be out long term. And this is just brutal news for JC and the Giants. JC was a guy that the Giants signed in NFL free agency that they thought could make this roster and kind of be that flex interior offensive lineman, play a little bit of center, play a little bit of right and left guard, and just do a little bit of everything. But unfortunately for him, for me, you, Giants fans, and Brian Daboll and Bobby Johnson, you are out a man on the interior offensive line. That's why the Giants signed an offensive lineman. We'll break that down in a quick second. But first, let's show our guy JC some love. Unfortunate injury. His season pretty much is going to be done. Will not play this year for Big Blue. So let's show him some love. It's probably the last time we're going to be able to do so. Type his initials, JC, down in the comment section. The news of the day, though, for Big Blue circles around Sean Harlow. No, I do not think there is any relation to Jack Harlow, but he's got a cool last name. He's 6'4", 284 pounds, plays the interior offensive line. Pretty much he could play anything, but he's predominantly a center. And he was originally a 4th-round draft pick in 2017 by the Falcons. He appeared in 33 regular season games and made 8 starts, 5 at left guard, 3 at center. He's 28 years old. He's going to have to fight to make this roster, no doubt about it. They brought him in, though, because they needed another player on the interior offensive line in training camp with JC going down. They needed another center. They pretty much just needed another body out there, and Harlow is that guy. But this does not mean he is going to make the roster. I mean, last year for the Arizona Cardinals, he played in a couple of games, but he was not all that good. In week 1, against the Kansas City Chiefs, he allowed 6 pressures. In week 3, when he started in week 1, he started in week 3. In those 2 starts in week 1 and week 3, he allowed 12 pressures. Yes, to very good defensive lines in the Chiefs and the Eagles, but if you're going to play for the New York Giants, you're going to have a lot of teams that have great dog defensive lines going up against you. The Cowboys, the Eagles, Washington, the 49ers. There's a lot of teams that are going to be loaded across the offensive front, or defensive front, and he struggles in the pass blocking department, has a pass block grade of 28.6. He allowed 2 sacks this past year, a PFF grade of 43.2, and a run block grade of 48.8. So he's not a polished player. He's not a productive player in the NFL, but he's going to serve as a body for the New York Giants. I mean, when you talk about this offensive line, the interior can somewhat be looked at as thin because you have Ben Bredesen, who could play all 3 positions, and you have Mark Lewinsky, who started on the right side, but after that, you really have a bunch of unproven talent. When you talk about John Michael Schmitz, you talk about Joshua Ezeudu, you talk about Marcus McKeithen, as well as Wyatt Davis, Jack Anderson, and even Shane Lemieux, as I'm still going to consider him inexperienced due to the injuries and the fact he hasn't played that many games over the past couple of seasons. So I'm excited that the Giants continue to add to the offensive line. I continue to think that you have to invest in your investments. You invested in Daniel Jones. You invested in Saquon Barkley now. Now it's time to invest in those guys by adding the offensive line. And Joe Schoen is really starting to mold this offensive line in his image. He picked John Michael Schmitz in the 2nd round. He picked Evan Neal in the top 10. He also picked Joshua Ezeudu in the top 75. So that's 3 guys that he used premium draft picks on, and he signed Mark Lewinsky in NFL free agency. So he's doing his best to beef up and strengthen up this offensive line. But I want to ask you this question. What is your confidence level in the O-line? The Giants are ranked pretty much in the bottom 5 by every publication, PFF, ESPN, when it comes to the offensive line. But I want to hear from you because you've actually watched Giants games for your whole life. So let me know. Scale your confidence from 1 to 10 when it comes to the offensive line. Coming up next, we're going to talk about Evan Neal a little bit. And I have some statistics that I want to talk about, as the Giants, as we know, were one of the least explosive pass offenses in the NFL. And it starts with the big fella, number 73, Evan Neal. We're going to break him down in just a quick second. But first, you guys got to get hooked up with these awesome new throwback jerseys. Go to chatsports.com/Giants throwback and get a Saquon, Daniel Jones, Xavier McKinney. There's a whole bunch of players that you can get these jerseys for. The Giants are going to wear those 2 more times this year. I think it might need to just be their home uniforms. Get yours today. Be ready for week 1. Chatsports.com/Giants throwback. Football is here, baby. The pads are coming on at training camp practice today. I've been asked a bunch of times how Evan Neal has looked, how Andrew Thomas, how John Michael Schmitz has looked. And it's tough to judge and grade players in practice when pads aren't on and there's not a lot of contact going on. But I am going to be dialed in on Evan Neal today. I'm calling him the X factor for the New York Giants in the 2023 season. If this offense wants to take a step, if they don't want to be considered one of the least explosive passing offenses in the NFL, yes, it is important for Daniel Jones to get better. Yes, it is important for Darren Waller to stay healthy and the receivers to be more of a factor than they were last year. But this man right here, I think the success of the Giants and their offense solely rides on number 73, because if he plays like he did last year, he is not going to be a great player in this league. There's going to be talk about him switching to the interior offensive line, and this offense will struggle. He allowed 7 sacks last year, 10 QB hits. He was penalized 7 times and had a PFF grade of 44.1. Not saying PFF is gospel, but, you know, you never want to be graded anything below 50, and 44 is not good. I think they are good for the interior offensive line, and especially just the offensive line in general, but I do think it's fair to say the success of this offense is going to ride on Evan Neal. If Evan Neal takes a step and becomes the player he's supposed to be, this was the guy that a lot of teams in the 2022 draft had as their number 1 prospect in the entire thing, and we picked him at number 7, and he needs to produce like a number 7 pick. And if he does that, this offense is going to be better, and they need to be more explosive. When you talk about the Giants offense last year, they were allergic to throwing the ball downfield and having big plays. And the stats in the NFL back up that if you can create chunk plays and if you can create big plays, you are most likely going to score on drives. So look at this stat. TD percentage on drives. If you do not have a play of 15-plus yards, you score on drives less than 6% of the time. That percentage jumps all the way up to 51% if you just have one play on that drive of at least 15 yards. You create chunk plays, you create splash plays, you're going to be dancing in the end zone more likely than not. And the Giants, they need to do that. They need to push the ball more downfield a little bit more, because just 5.4% of pass attempts for the New York Giants last year gained 20-plus yards. And you betcha, that was last in the NFL. I do like that the Giants are trying multiple different groupings and pairings on the offensive line. At the end of day 5 at training camp, this was the starting 5 across the front for Big Blue. You had Andrew Thomas at the left tackle, Joshua Ezeudu at the left guard. You had John Michael Schmitz, the schoolboy rookie. That picture cracks me up every time I see it, at the center spot. You had Ben Bredesen at right guard and spot in there instead of Mark Lewinsky. And you had the second-year, number 7 pick, Evan Neal at the right tackle spot. I am not going to be upset if this is the starting lineup come week 1, Sunday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys. As always, I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate you for tuning in to New York Giants Now by Chat Sports. We're going to do a video later today on the channel following the first day of padded practice tonight, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So subscribe and turn your notifications on and be on the lookout for that. But we had some breaking news. Wanted to get you guys a video. So hit that thumbs up if you made it to the end of the show. Be a real one.